What if I told you Notre Dame has a quarterback with a program record passer rating, one of the cleanest releases in college football, and legitimate first round trades? And what if I told you the biggest question with CJ Carr is not whether he can play quarterback, it's whether he can prove he can carry an offense when everything around him isn't perfect. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Draft Yoda, where we're data-driven and prospect-focused. As always, I am Draft Yoda himself, Bill Workman, your favorite draft nerd's favorite draft nerd. And today we're breaking down Notre Dame quarterback CJ Carr. Carr currently is sitting as a 9.05 out of 10, makes him my number 32 overall prospect and my QB9 entering the 2026 college football season. Now, I know what people are going to say right away. How can a Notre Dame quarterback who completed 67% of his passes, threw 24 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions and averaged 9.4 yards per attempt only be QB9? And that's why where I see him and my evaluation, it gets interesting. Because yes, CJ Carr has real NFL traits. The release is real, the accuracy is real, the ability to play in time is real, anticipation is real. But this quarterback class is loaded, and when you get this deep in the board, the details matter. With Carr, the question is not, can he execute an offense? Because he absolutely can. The question is, can he elevate one? And that's what he's got 2026 to answer. So today, we're going to talk about CJ Carr, Notre Dame, and why he's QB9 on my board. CJ grew up in Michigan. His dad played at University of Michigan. His grandfather was a head coach at Michigan and one of the most recognizable names in Wolverine football history, Lloyd Carr. So right away, everybody and their brother thought this quarterback was going to come to Michigan. He ended up at Notre Dame. I believe he ended up there to make a name for himself. He was a real national prospect. Consensus 4-star, top 40 national, Elite 11 quarterback finalist, All-American Bowl selection. Decorated high school player, 3 first-team All-State selections, while leading his team to back-to-back conference championships. Notre Dame got a real one coming out of high school. He was a polished quarterback. With that lineage, you would expect him to be. He redshirted his 2024 season. Honestly, for a quarterback like this, I think that mattered because when you are evaluating quarterbacks, everyone wants that instant result. They want that kid to come in and show as a freshman so dominantly that not everybody's going to be able to do it. Some quarterbacks need a year to develop, a year to learn a playbook. They need a year to adjust the speed of college football, and a year to build their body. Carr also dealt with, throwing elbow soreness during the redshirt season. It never required surgery, but it was a part of his life, and it helped shape him into 2025 when he was ready to come out and, win the starting job and take over one of the biggest quarterback positions in college football. Because Notre Dame quarterback is not a normal job, Every throw is magnified. Every big game becomes a referendum. And CJ Carr handled that spotlight as a redshirt freshman extremely well. 12 games in 2025, had a 66.7% completion percentage on his passes, 2,741 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 9.4 yards per attempt. His passer rating was 168.06, which was a new Notre Dame program record. So it's an impressive season for any quarterback. And for a redshirt freshman, it's a major statement. You know, he also earned second team freshman All-American honors. And when you watch the tape, the numbers make sense. This is not, it wasn't empty production. It wasn't just a quarterback throwing screens all game. Carr showed real timing, real accuracy, and real command, and a willingness to attack windows that you rarely see from younger quarterbacks. He became the first quarterback since 2021 to post multiple 300-yard games. It's the reason the NFL scouts are going to pay close attention to him in 2026 because the foundation is there. That release is the first thing that's going to jump off the page to anybody who's scouting quarterbacks. It's one of the cleaner releases in the quarterback class. It's compact. It's repeatable. The ball comes out the same way over and over again. And that matters. Quarterbacks with long and consistent releases struggle when the picture gets muddy. And Carr doesn't need a lot of extra motion to get the ball out. He can catch, set, and deliver. And that is why much of the offense stays on schedule. Speaking of staying on schedule, the second thing that's going to pop to you when you're watching film on him is his timing. Carr is at his best when he can play in rhythm, when he can go 1, 2, 3, ball out, hit the back foot, deliver, see the leverage, trust the route, and let it go. It sounds simple, but it is not. A lot of young quarterbacks wait until receivers are open. Carr shows the ability to throw before the receiver's fully clear. And I think the game that best stood out in is NC State. When NC State loaded the box and tried to force Notre Dame to win through the air, Carr responded by throwing with anticipation. He was fitting balls into windows before receivers completely broke open. And that's an NFL trait. That's not backyard football. That is quarterbacking. It also leads me into the third thing that really jumps off the page when you watch him, and that's his ball placement. He throws catchable footballs. Back shoulder fades, out breakers, timing routes to the sideline. Those throws let an offense stay ahead of the chains. And when you have a quarterback that can live on those throws, you can build a passing game around him. He does not have to be a wild creator, to be effective. He can beat you with structure, placement, and rhythm. Another thing that's going to jump off the page is that he's willing to challenge a team vertically. Sometimes when people hear rhythm passer or structured quarterback, they assume safe, conservative, check down football. And that's not Carr. He takes deep shots. The 54-yard strike to Faison at Stanford matters because it shows he's willing to pull the trigger and throw a deep ball. He's not just trying to survive. He's trying to make plays. And that combination is important because if you want to win underneath and outside the numbers, you have to be willing to punish defenses over the top when they start stacking down low. One of my favorite stretches of CJ Carr's tape came at Boston College, second quarter. 7 throws, 7 completions. 2 of them went deep for scores. That's the kind of sequence that tells you that what a quarterback looks like when everything is clicking. The timing was clean. The confidence was obvious. The ball was coming out and on schedule. He was attacking downfield without getting reckless, and that's the version of CJ Carr that people are going to get excited about. You know, that's the version that's not just a good college player. That's the version that's a real prospect. Another part of CJ's game I like is his ability to reset his feet under pressure. Um, I'd like to say this is probably thanks to his grandfather and his father. Um, you know, a lot of young quarterbacks feel pressure and immediately bail. They drop their eyes, they spin out, and they create problems that then they have to solve. Carr isn't that guy. When the pocket starts to move, he tries to reset to a clean platform because he wants to throw from balance. It's a good habit to have. It tells me when he is not trying to turn, it tells me that he's not trying to turn every play into a scramble drill. You know, he understands his ball is his job is to deliver the football. You know, and the numbers back it up. Only 8 sacks, and that's not all the offensive line. Don't get me wrong, that is a very good offensive line, but it's also the quarterback's clock, and an understanding of when the ball needs to come out and not inviting chaos in to your life. It's a big thing for a young quarterback. One thing that I think really stands out when you do a deeper dive on Carr is the report that came out that Carr corrects mistakes quickly. The pre-snap tell against Texas A&M being gone very next week matters. You know, that that may sound like a small thing, but it's not. NFL teams love quarterbacks who can be coached. Every young quarterback is going to have flaws. Every young quarterback is going to trip sometimes. They're going to tip their hand sometimes, and they're going to have bad habits sometimes. Question is, can they be corrected? And with Carr, we already have existing evidence that he can take coaching in 1 week and fix a problem. Now, if this was about completion percentage, passer rating, clean mechanics, Carr would be much higher than quarterback 9. So why is he here? My first concern is his frame. He is on the lighter side. Um, it doesn't mean he can't play. It doesn't mean he can't play, but NFL rushers are different. Hits are different. Pockets collapse faster. Bodies are bigger. And if he's going to live and die in the pocket, I would like him to be a little bit bigger. Because he is not a quarterback who's going to consistently escape and create with his legs. And that kind of leads into my second concern for him is Carr wins with structure, and don't take that as an insult. It's not. A lot of really good quarterbacks win with structure, but in today's game, quarterbacks eventually have to answer what happens when the first answer is gone. What happens when protection breaks? What happens when round concept is covered? What happens when 3rd and 8 and the defense wins the call? What happens when it's 3rd and 8 and every man that's out there is blanketed? You have to make a move and win the game. Carr can move enough to reset. He can slide. He can protect himself, but he's not dynamic when it comes to off-script creation. He's not going to consistently extend plays for 5 seconds and create explosive explosive plays outside the design of the offense. And that scares me a little when it comes to the NFL because you see players like Patrick Mahomes that consistently get out and make plays from outside the pocket and make plays off script. That's not going to be CJ Carr. CJ Carr almost feels like he's coming into a quarterback space 15 years too late, where the quarterbacks used to stand and stay in a pocket. Now it's much rarer. And that's a concern I have for him. You know, the USC and the Pittsburgh tape are games that keep this evaluation from getting too comfortable. Under sustained pressure, Carr started to press. He got smaller in the pocket. He forced tight window throws. And in the NFL, those throws turn into interceptions. And that matters in the NFL because the NFL is going to get pressure on him. Now, defensive coordinators are going to test him. They're going to heat him up. They're going to muddy the picture. And they're going to make him prove that he can stay calm and keep making good decisions when the play isn't clean. Carr has shown flashes of that, but for him to fully answer it, he's going to have to do that in 2026. Because 1 year of starting tape is just the start. It's not the whole conversation, you know. Another important part of the evaluation is the offensive context. Carr had real support around him. Notre Dame's running game was outstanding. I mean, you had the number 3. You had 2 first-round running backs with you. That's very rare. It doesn't mean Carr's production was fake. It wasn't. It just means that he had more space to throw a ball because people were focused more on the run. And how much of his production belongs to the quarterback? How much of production belongs to that offensive line? How much production belongs to that running game or the play caller? Those are things that I think in 2026, Carr's going to have to answer. The offensive line stays relatively intact for him. And it's a great offensive line. But with the new running game behind him and some new pieces at wide receiver, he's going to have to show the ability to continue to be what he was and the ability to make a couple plays that he hasn't shown he can make yet. Now, let's talk about why he's my QB9 on the board. It's not because I don't like him. At a 9.05, he's still a very high-level graded prospect for me. That's a first-round grade. Anything 9 and above is a first-round grade. But the quarterbacks ahead of him either have more elite physical tools, more dynamic creation ability, more proven production, or have a more complete profile right now. Arch Manning has high-end traits and a high-end overall ceiling. Dante Moore has arm talent and a growth profile that's phenomenal. Jaden Mayava brings a major physical ability and upside. Darian Mensah has production and playmaking. Hoover has polish and command. Julian Sand has accuracy and high-level passing profile. Mestamaker has an unbelievable, story, aggressive play style, and he's got production. Lenore Sellers is a rare physical monster. And Carr sits right after that group because the release and the processing is real. That allows him to sit here. But the frame, the off-script limitations, the pressure response, and the 1-year sample keep him outside that top 8. Good news for him, the gap can close quickly. Quarterbacks who process and protect the football and throw with timing can rise incredibly fast in this in the draft class and in any draft profile, Looking ahead to 2026, Carr has everything. This is the year where he can go from a promising young Notre Dame quarterback to a legitimate first round prospect. The release is already there, the accuracy is there, the timing is there, the ball security is there. Now he has to answer some hard questions. Can he carry the offense a little bit more? Can he produce without the same elite running game behind him? Can he stay strong under pressure? Can he add some functional strength to that frame? Can he create, can he create just enough when the play breaks down so that I don't think he's just a statue standing back there? He does not have to become a running quarterback. That's not the point. But he does have to prove he can survive chaos because nothing else. The NFL is always chaos. I'm sure somebody's going to ask, can he climb? And absolutely he can. In fact, he is one of the quarterbacks in this range who can climb quickly because NFL teams are always looking for clean passers and guys who take care of the football. But he's currently at a 9.05 out of 10, making him my number 32 overall prospect, QB9. And, it's a quarterback with compact release, strong timing, real anticipation, and a level of accuracy that absolutely translates. He's smart. He's coachable. He protects the football, and he keeps an offense on schedule. Those aren't small things. Those are NFL traits. But the reason he's quarterback 9 instead of higher is because he has questions to answer. He has to answer the frame questions. He has to answer the questions about off script. The tools are there, the processing is there, the release is there. Now 2026 decides how high this thing can go. But that's just my board. What do you think about CJ Carr? Am I underrating him? Am I overrating him? Do you think he can climb into the top 5 quarterbacks in this class? Is he the next great Notre Dame quarterback to come into the league? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy these player evaluations, we build them around film and analytics. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, because we're going to keep putting in the work. Our goal is to have 100 prospects or more by the start of college football season. As always, I'm Draft Yoda, Bill Workman, your favorite draft nerd's favorite draft nerd. And we'll see you guys in the next one.